Good morning, Mr. Trower.
Oh, good morning. Yes, sir.
It's very nice seeing you again after a good night's sleep.
My pleasure.
And my head was like, you know, with all the stuff we talked about yesterday.
We covered a lot of ground yesterday.
Yeah. And I just went through some of my papers, and then I saw this article about headaches in children, and it was from 2003.
Headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had another paper saying that the teachers in Denmark, they are on medication. They have to take pills to manage the day. And then I found another quote where I said that in 2003 I said this will be the biggest health scandal ever if we don't stop up and use our common sense. In 2003 I wrote, as one of the first institutions or organizations I wrote to was the Danish Teacher Union. And I told them that this is so important, and they can get out to 60,000 teachers and all the schools in Denmark by pushing one button. And I said, this is so because it's the children and it's our future. It's so important. And do you know what the response was from them? It's not our responsibility. And then I said to them, well, it's not mine. It's our responsibility because it's our future with our children.
Yeah.
What is the most, you can say, the most, I would say, devastating or tough thing you can actually say to, so I can bring it on to the Teachers Union and to every teacher, because it's so important that they understand this.
When you have a transmitter in the school, different things happen. Basically, the headaches, you have the, and this is known and is published, the blood vessels in the brain constrict, become smaller. That will cause the headaches and the migraine. The histamine levels in the body go up, which basically puts the body into shock. The heat shock proteins in the body go up, and all of this is measurable. That's all testable and it's all measurable. The heat shock proteins go up, and that causes all the cellular structures in the body not to act properly. The nighttime melatonin goes down, which means the immune system is not functioning properly. So what you have, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but it's worth mentioning again, a proper international survey was carried out within France, Spain and Germany. Gently, Scooby. France, Spain and Germany, and they found that where a transmitter was near a school or in a school, and it's on the documents you're going to take, they found, in this case, I think 138 cancer clusters, which involved miscarriages in teachers, breast cancer in teachers, depression in teachers, sleeping disorders in teachers. And this was a proper study. And in some cases, mayors of towns or people with authority actually ordered the transmitters to be turned off and taken down. When after that was published, and before I spoke at the Welsh Assembly, the Welsh Parliament, there were another 47 cancer clusters. Then nobody started studying them, nobody counted them, but when I spoke in Canada last year, I looked and they are still occurring. They are still occurring. So we know, and we know in order of susceptibility, in people who absorb more radiation and get more harm, it is always children first, always, because they're smaller. And because they're smaller, they are nearer the wavelength. The wavelength of microwaves is really a millimetre to a metre. And if you have children within that size, they will act like an aerial. children act like air, so children will absorb more, but they don't just absorb more, it reacts more in the body because their bone marrow is very moist. Their skulls are very thin, their bones are very thin. So they will absorb more and there will be more reaction in children. Then it is women, nothing to do with sex. It is women have very complicated hormone systems and neurotransmitters in their bodies going through the monthly cycles, and they are interfered with the microwaves. So women suffer more than men. Then it will be anybody who is poorly or liable to be sick, and at the end of the line you have young fit men. So there is even an order. And in fact, an interesting point here is, yesterday you mentioned the International Certificate for Non-Ionising Radiation Protection, known as the ICNIRP certificate. Everywhere I have been, all over Europe, everywhere, and I've spoken to a lot of decision makers, I've spoken to parliaments, councils, planners, and I've always asked, how many of you have read it? Nobody. I have never met a single person that has read the certificate that they are claiming to be using. When, if you say to them, is this safe? They'll say, yes, we are within the ICNIRP guidelines, which is their favourite phrase. We are within the ICNIRP guidelines and it is considered safe. In fact, that is a lie. Anybody who says that is lying. It may not be an intentional lie, it may be their advisors that told them, but it is a lie. And it is a lie for two very good reasons. The first is they haven't read it, because if they had, they wouldn't say that. Well, I have read it. And on page, I think it's 554 or 553, it actually says in the ICNIRP guidelines, it says, special precautions must be taken with children, women, the sensitive, and the elderly, and the sick. Special precautions. Not just put a transmitter up and one size fits everybody. Special precautions. Now, the next page, which is I think 554, that is the important one, and that is the one that they are lying about because they haven't read it. Page 554, I think it is, actually says that decision makers should read current scientific literature, look at what is known to be causing illnesses, and set a safety level below what is currently known. Now, if you say to your decision makers, what is currently known to be causing illness, what have you read? They should be able to say, we have read this, we have read that, this is what's known to be causing illness, this is our safety level. It should be documented. They should also have carried out a survey throughout the school to find out how many children may be sensitive, electrosensitive, how many women may be electrosensitive. So, and this should be on record, and also any school should have somebody coming along regularly and measuring it, measuring the radiation, to see if it is within guidelines which are known to be causing illness. And all of this should be kept on record. I mean, we're talking about radiation and children, you know, not giving out sweets. This is radiation and children's lives. and radiation has to be logged, catalogued, registered, and it should be available for inspection by people who study radiation. Now, they do none of that.
And we have mobile phone towers, we have Wi-Fi, and we have all the phones
All this in the school.
pockets of the
Yeah,
children and
absolutely.
teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, but essentially the decision maker, which is usually somebody in the school, they should have read the ICNIRP guidelines, they should know what is known to be causing illness, and they should set a level below. Now, if they're not scientists, it's already been done for them. It's called the Bioinitiative Report. That was done by all of the experts in the world so that they can say this is currently known to be causing illness and this is considered safe for children. But any small class with a couple of Wi-Fis will exceed the Bioinitiative Report. And in fact, I think anybody in any school has a legal right to take the decision maker in the school to court for not adhering to the international guidelines, because I know the school will say we follow the international guidelines. They always say that. And I think anybody in any school could make the decision maker explain his or herself.
That,
Legally.
I have an example from Denmark where a woman, she has 2 young boys in the school, and there's a lot of radiation. Then she contacted the school board and so on, and she's almost being labeled as psychiatric ill and so on. They just refer to the Danish National Health Board and the Cancer Institute, but they don't even mention ICNIRP because they probably don't know it.
Yeah.
But that should really be taking, there you should really put it heart to heart and say, excuse me, what you're doing here is actually a legal case.
Oh, it is, yeah. It is illegal. It is illegal, and I can tell you why. Because mobile phones and Wi-Fi, none of them have passed a safety test. None of them. None of them have a safety certificate. None of them. And it is illegal to experiment on people, especially. You can only consent to be experimented on if you are over 18. Children can't. And unless the parents have consented, Wi-Fi in school is illegal. I mean, now the problem is the same as mobile phones. The problem is, and it's a very clever law, what the government have done is, unlike a drug company,